All right. So we're going to watch the engineering section of Star Citizen Live. There was a interview with Anna Demetrio at the second half. I have to go to work this morning. It's a great interview. Really cool. Really cool. She's obviously an actress for the game, but also streams the game and is a streamer on Twitch and everything. So it's was pretty neat interview, and also like pretty groundbreaking for, like, you know, even though she definitely has ties to the company, like a Twitch streamer to be on a show like that is pretty cool. I think Captain Burks or Zero State are next. I don't know, maybe like Board Gamer or something, somebody in the UK, that'd be cool. But this is titled Engineer Scrutineer, and I think this was one of the most important SCLs that we've had in a very long time, but also one of the more disappointing ones because we have Torsten on there to discuss engineering, but in a very similar vein to the questions that people had with engineering. He also went over the mining changes that are coming in 3.19, something that is much closer, something that we're actually going to play with this year, and where engineering is like a maybe, I feel like. And they took up 30 minutes of engineering talk where they could have taken up the full hour of engineering talk, mining talk, bunch of questions, an actually good SCL, and they still didn't. I think when you get these devs and you have the opportunity that you have here, you should take advantage of them, and they did not. And that's pretty disappointing. But at the same time, I think this was, from the engineering standpoint, a great episode. So let's check it out. Let's check it out.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Star Citizen Live Staring Contest.
What? Thank you, Retrograde.
Don't break. Get in here on this, Torsten. Come on, get in. Move in. Move into frame, Torsten. Come on. You're German. Germans like to have fun.
No.
No. Don't break. If you blink, we're done. You blinked?
Yeah.
God, we lost.
I think he blinked on purpose.
All right, we'll do a show about engineer gameplay. Hi, everybody. I'm Jared. This is Star Citizen Live, and I guess we'll do a show about engineer gameplay. Joining us on the show this week, a man who definitely suffers from unmoist eyeballs.
That last sub, by the way.
Torsten, how you doing?
The last sub, by the way, Retrograde. Forgot I was subbed, but have the money anyway. All right, cancel it now, man. Don't forget.
You know, they let me do just about anything I want, and sometimes I'm like, that's a mistake. That's a mistake. So, if you've never seen Star Citizen Live before, it's where we take about an hour at the end of our week and hang out with the developers and the people who help make Star Citizen possible and talk a little bit about their work, what they do, where they're from, all that kinds of stuff. For the first...
I think Jared put a hat on later, and he didn't realize that his hair was this messed up. I thought he was doing this on purpose to look disheveled, to, like, you know, represent the way the backers and the other devs are feeling, you know. But
first half of the show this week, we have gameplay lead game. What's your title?
Lead systems.
Lead systems designer, Torsten from the EUPU gameplay feature team, here to talk about Engineer, which is the next evolution of our resource management system.
I was laughing like,
we did a Journey to 4.0 special that we released to YouTube last week in lieu of last week's ISC. So check that out if you haven't already, and then come back. We'll wait.
Just 5 minutes.
Oh, and Brexter, thank you for the Prime. Yeah, I missed that. Thank you, Zach.
Can double speed.
Just wait. Honestly, they're going to start putting rules on what I can do. So after that show, people had a lot of questions. So we're just going to dive into that because today's show is going to be a little bit longer. If you thought I was just like wasting time and everything, no, this week's show will be a bit longer than normal. So right up the bat, Torsten, and this is our first question is actually a bit of a mea culpa for us. When we filmed when we were in Germany, one of the things that you said during filming was we have to include a bit about how not everybody is forced to do this. Now, you're not going to be compelled into engineer gameplay, and there are going to be other opportunities for you to go and have your things repaired at space station stuff. And you were really good at identifying that we needed to film that, and we needed to include that in the section.
That would be important.
I forgot to put it in.
It's okay.
So it didn't make the segment. So I'm going to ask you right now, talk to us about that. Is Engineer this absolutely enormous behemoth thing that's going to ruin everybody's experience, and everybody's going to be forced into micromanaging the tiniest and most insignificant details of their ship life?
Before he answers that, I think that is listen, everybody makes mistakes. I don't want to make assumptions, but I'm going to make them right now. The fact that, the most important thing that the developer says for you to include in the video, he obviously apologizes for it. It's a mistake. Shows to me exactly what all these videos are. They're just marketing. They're just bullshit. They're just to look a certain way. And that way is as cool as possible. And that, so that will take the back seat. But who knows? It could have just been like Jared forgot to write it down, but still.
If you're into that, yes. So, so we want to allow you to basically have full control over all the ship items, over your ship. So it should feel like your ship if you're into that. But on the other hand, we also want to allow players that are just jumping in for, let's say, 1 hour of game time.
So they'll get out
we
of
don't want to force
Orson
them into it. You have to do a 2-hour prep and then do another of 1 hour of post prep for your ship. We really want also to have those players being able to fly around and experience all the missions in the persistent universe and all what we ever will throw at you.
So. Would you say it's kind of what I took from it, from listening to us when we filmed it, from the conversations from you stuff? It's kind of like owning a car today. The car is going to work and it's going to function and it's going to do everything that you expect it to do with very little work on behalf of the owner. Yep. And occasionally, a light's going to go on, and you're going to have to take it to a service center and get it fixed, pay a fee, somebody else takes care of it and whatnot. But if you're an enthusiast, if you're the min-max lifestyle and stuff like this, you can fine-tune your automobile to get more out of it, to improve its top speed, to improve its handling, stuff like that. And that's where engineer gameplay really comes into play.
Exactly. You will be the person that actually is able to identify the light bulb that just went on in your car and tell you exactly, okay, this is the engine, and then when you open up your trunk, you see.
I think it's a really good example.
Might be the igniter or whatever. So
yeah, I think that's really important to express, is that this is, and the video did not whatsoever. The YouTube video for ISC did not represent this well at all. And because it was obviously showing all the examples of engineering gameplay, and it didn't show, kind of what a day-to-day would be like. And it's your choice if you want to tune your ship. It's your choice if you want to repair that problem, or you can go to a station and fix it. Now, if going to a station and fixing it and just spending money on it, this could fall down the slippery slope, I think, of refueling, where that is right now, where money doesn't matter. Repair is very cheap. So going to a station and repairing very quickly and simply is going to be chosen over the overcomplicated and, kind of cool, but again, overcomplicated refueling mechanics. I got to dock, I got to open this thing, and we got to pay, and we got to do all these things, and I got to wait. When it's literally instant with everything else. So with using the pads, I mean. So the idea of this is very interesting, but I definitely think we not once repair and engineering is part of this, I think they really to take a good look at repair, refuel, rearm on the pads, how long it takes, how much it costs, all that stuff.
So that is your job.
But I love
But if you're not into that,
But I love the min-max. Like, that's basically what it is. It's if you want a min-max, here you go. You got a whole, slew of things that you can do to min-max your ship while you're flying it, while you're not, all that stuff.
you can still bring it to the shop and have it repaired there.
Yeah, J-Man, you can.
Star Citizens like this, Dave Bridle here, who are no good at playing, at doing this and have no interest in. Sorry, I threw somebody under the bus right now. It was an in joke. You're not going to get it. Who don't want to be an engineer or whatnot, they're still going to be able to operate their ship and run around and do that like this. Yes. But for those people who want to push a bit more, people who want to get a bit more performance, a bit more capability out of their craft.
Yes.
Okay.
Precisely.
And then from the repair,
and I think he'll go into it later, but it's not just performance. It could be reliability, things like that.
Repair standpoint, from the from the people who are in the Jeffrey tubes, fixing stuff like this. I mean, obviously that's a bit of the outside world, imposing in on you. What options do people have for that? Just limp home and get it repaired by a service station, or?
Yes. So one thing that is even now written behind me on my whiteboard which is the main goal that we envision for the engineering gameplay, is that player decisions matter, and one of the decisions can be it's not my gameplay, so I'm not into engineering, and it's a valid decision. It's your choice. It's your game. It's your ship. Whatever you want to do, that you can do it. So but that has the consequence of you probably will run with the stock settings for the items that you bought.
Yep.
And you regularly have to go to repair it, so you have to pay the money to actually be able to repair it, and sometimes you might even need to exchange the items for money, so you have to buy a new item to have it then exchanged on your ship and stuff like that. But if you then have the other player type who then is interested in, like, no, I can maintain my items myself and I can adjust them to my demands, so you can get a more, like a bigger or longer lifetime of the items out of your ship, or you get like a more effective ship, or out of your ship,
A more effective ship is the one that sort of interests me, because I would love to see a scenario. These are like classic MMO scenarios, right? Where you need the proper gear or the proper, I don't know, like figuring things out to be able to maybe beat a certain boss, right? Or a certain raid or something like that. I don't think boss or raid is maybe necessarily relevant to Star Citizen right now. I do hope it's a little bit more relevant to Star Citizen in the somewhat near future, fingers crossed, and doing things like preparing your components to deal with where you may be going, or where that enemy might be, or what type of weapons they use, like preparing your weapons to be effective, under EMP or something like that, right? If you're a cargo hauler, maybe you can effectively avoid classic piracy techniques much better than you normally would, at the detriment of something else, right? That is really what I want to see out of this system. And I think, they're only scratching the surface on the examples that they could have given here.
So you are more effective in the sense of,
And from the damage standpoint, it's, as time to kill increases, as the game continues to evolve, physicalized damage comes in, the armor, penetration, stuff like that, and the natural time to live or time to kill, however you want to, extends. It'll become a choice between knowing what your ship can do without an engineer and knowing when you have to cut and run, so you don't have to do that, or having an engineer or becoming an engineer yourself, and then you can extend your time to live.
Yeah, drastically. So it was even just a discussion that I had today with Yogi, where we were briefly talking about the time to kill right now and where we should be going. So we were especially talking about the multi-crew ships, because right now it's like a hammerhead, for example, dies too fast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I do think multi-crew ships might die a little bit too quickly, and but I think light fighters feel about correct at the moment, and I think that's why they're touching on the big ones.
So there's definitely something that we have to do. Yeah, how it will look like in the future, I cannot tell, because we have to try it out. But
Yeah, it's a good
one of our
conversation that he's
goals,
having, though.
additionally to increasing the time to kill, is also like if you are in a soft dead state, that you are able to repair to a degree. So you might.
Yes. So that is something that, once soft death came in, I think a lot of the questions were specifically about this, being able to come out of a soft death, from soft death, to repair your ship.
Even be able to repair the pieces you are still in, and if the engine is still attached, you might be lucky to do an escape, because you like pulled out your quantum drive out of the piece that is floating around and then attached it back into a socket that might be fitting, and then you somehow boot up the engine, and then you fly away.
It's a pie in the sky example, but to know that that's where they want to go is very
escape.
Cool.
One of the eternal challenges of
Hey,
Star
Elliot.
Citizen, not just running a live gameplay environment in the middle of your development, but running a continuing behind-the-scenes documentary, a storytelling series telling the story of the thing while you're in development, is reminding people, without having to keep repeating it every 30 seconds in the thing, that we design systems for the game we're building towards, not the game as it is today. The game is...
I love this answer, because it's Jared explaining how the game works and Torsten basically saying no. Not really.
As it is
but
today
kind
is
of.
What's available, what's online, what works, what doesn't work, stuff like that. Just gotta be real. But when you design systems, you're not designing for the game as it is today. You're designing for where the game will be with the increased time to kill, with the proper damage penetration and stuff like that.
Well, we still have the current state of game in mind, right? So we
still have the current state of game in mind. Yes. And I argue that you need to have more of the current state of game in mind more often. Like, the Jared explanation is the one that I'm tired of hearing. As somebody who has been around for 10 years, you have to recognize that, yes, design the system to give you the ability to do what you want to do in the long term, but you have to focus on the short term with what we're doing now, because we're stuck with this now, and we have been since 2017, right? So to argue that you're only building towards the future, well, the future is kind of never ending, and the game's never going to come out, right? Like it's it'll go 1.0 at some point, whatever that'll look like, we don't know, but the game is never going to finish development. So if you're always building for the future and you're never focusing on the present, nobody's ever having fun in your game. And I think that's a place where Star Citizen is sort of now, where people are seeing the potential of the game, but it's not necessarily being realized just yet because of that. And I think they're close. Like, I'm able to find fun in game a lot better now. And I think it's because of the reason that they have the players who are currently playing the game more in mind than they did in the past.
try to make it like the ultimate goal is to have it where we want it to be in the future. But and sometimes we can do some slight adjustments on the way there that are more fitting to the current state of the game.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not as easy to achieve. Sometimes we even have to do additional work to make it work with the current setup.
Yep, soft death.
Yeah, those are decisions that we always have to go through. And sometimes the decision is like, yeah, okay, we cannot put that much time and effort into creating like additional work on us that makes it fit better into the current situation. We aim more for the long run.
And that's fine.
And of course,
it's just more
I introduced
often.
the idea of increasing
I think
time
it
to
should
kill
be
and
the
stuff. That's
current.
obviously where we're working towards for every spacecraft in the game except the Cutlass Steel.
Yeah, +1 on that.
Why does it blow up so easily?
Torsten says +1 on that. And I wonder if he recognizes, like, from a design or whatever standpoint, how stupid that thing was.
Give me my camera. John Crew. No, zoom in. John Crew. Why my cutlass steel blow up so easy? It's like, hey, cutlass steel, and it goes, ah, it explodes.
It's made out of steel. It's brittle.
I'm in a mood today. All right. So all that said, and all of that, laid on the table, just as in a simplified form, do people have to be an engineer?
No.
There you go. Now, for someone who chooses to be an engineer, can they be all three roles?
Yes.
Is there something that prevents them from being one?
This is from Elliot, who was on ISC this week. He said Torsten is an amazing systems designer, and he plays the game a lot. His org ran Siege in 12 minutes.
Even the person that doesn't want to be an engineer can be all of those three types that we talked about. It isn't it's no skill, it's no talent, it's no device, it's not something that you pick. It's based on your skill. So based on your skill, your knowledge, you just take up we thought the hat might be a clear indicator. But
okay, I'm glad you mentioned the hat.
Yeah.
Some of the
Elliot, you're lead designer at Star Citizen. Oh, congrats.
some of the React videos I saw, people on YouTube or Twitch, or even some of the posts I saw on Spectrum, whatever. Some people took the hat thing to be very literal.
Yeah.
Like there was literally a special hat that you put on.
Also, we're doomed. I'm just letting you guys know. If Elliot's lead designer at Star Citizen, we're in trouble. No, just congratulations,
There
dude.
isn't
I'm just
I'm
playing.
pretty sure I know the answer, but
It's awesome.
there isn't an actual hat.
except the bandana, that is a must-have. So you cannot be anything.
Yeah.
No, kidding.
Yeah,
you don't need a hat.
To a more logical state, though, we're not. This isn't like like switching between a flight mode, like SCM or whatever. There's not a special mode somebody goes into to become a
This was also
tuner
very
versus
important.
to become a mechanic thing. This is
That
like
was completely
the difference
missed in
between
the video.
salvaging and mining. It's
Yeah.
you decide to do these things.
Yes, there's a dedicated console that is constantly running, which full purpose is to give you an overview of the state of the ship.
And anyone can walk up to it and use it. So anyone can be an engineer at any time. It's not a role that's given out other than hey, go over there and you want to be the engineer, you go ahead,
And this can be used by whatever person you are, attached. And once you interact with it, you can be technically called an engineer because you're actually interacting with the system. And for the mechanic, it's like, if there's something, if you as a person, you don't have to be a mechanic, you just run around and you see something is broken, you pull out your multi-tool and fix.
We don't know if they'll have access roles anymore. So that was something that was discussed around engineering gameplay 2020, 2021. And they talked about that. They talked about access roles. Now it sounds like maybe not. Like, obviously, you don't pick the engineer class. I think everybody understood that. But I was taking it from the idea of they had mentioned, like, limited access for certain people based on what role they were given by the engine or by the captain, I guess. So that might still exist, but they seem to be getting away from that.
Then you suddenly are the mechanic. You are wearing your mechanic hat and actually fixing the thing. For the tuner, it's a bit more complicated. There you have to first pull out the item and then do some adjustments there and then bring it back in.
Right.
So, multiple steps.
Yeah, so it's one of those things when we talk about professions and stuff like that. I think what people can see with mining and what people can see now with salvaging and stuff like this, it's not a mode. It's not a thing that you check. It's not a thing that you enable. It is a aspect of gameplay and a system that exists for those who are interested in partaking in it. And the idea of 3 different hats and everything is something to be determined by the crew of a ship. You're going to take care of tuner tasks and you're going to take care of mechanic tasks.
Yeah.
But it's not
Among Us chores?
gamified.
No.
Okay, I'm putting on my mechanic thing and going. So that allows people to freely bob and weave and dip in and dip out of all 3.
So, for example, if you are the pilot, you can also wear all 3 hats if you want to.
Yeah.
You can be.
I just don't see us not going to a place where there's access roles. like certain people of your ship, like let's use the Idris for an example. Obviously, this is high copium stuff, but the idea of an Idris having big, being huge and having rooms that you may not want people to access, I would imagine that would be a thing. I'm hard pressed to it not being a thing, like to think that it wouldn't be a thing, and that's just maybe sort of a little separate discussion here than what they're having.
Be responsible for the resource distribution in your ship. You can also run around to fix fuses. Might not be the best choice because then you have to leave your pilot seat and actually do the things on.
Wearing hats and herding cats. Yeah. Shout out to Jake Bradley. All right, so one of the other big questions that we saw a lot in the comments and stuff is how often.
Yes.
Now, obviously, we're not going to ask you for a
How
specific.
often?
No, I'm not going to ask you for a specific number. But
20
ballpark, like what are we? What are our thoughts? Like, we have to keep this a high level kind of philosophical thing because tuning and balance comes at the end of the process. But how often are we thinking? When you talk, let's talk about malfunctions, because malfunctions are the kind of thing. It's like it's not somebody shooting me. The damage you get from somebody shooting you is going to happen as often as you get shot at. But for a malfunction, for like I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, I'm just trying to live my life out in the verse, and my crap breaks. What are we thinking? Is this a thing that happens every 30 minutes?
No.
Is this a thing? Yeah, like set some expectations for me here.
So it is dependent on
What you're doing.
Like if you fly your stock ship, like the base example, if you fly your stock ship, like we are still debating if we want to make it based on the distances you travel or based on the time you actually spend in the ship. Right now, my favor is to go in the distance side so that we make it distance based, but because like you might. Like we don't want to punish players that are just jumping around in one system and just doing like the comparison again with cars, right? If you have a car
okay, last
that you
ThinkCon
just
they mentioned
use
the
to
axis
travel
rolls.
short distances in that city, it lives longer than a car that you use to travel. Well,
It just comes down to this: if it's not in the game, it may have changed. So, and even if it's in the game, it might change.
it's not entirely true, but
Yeah,
you get the idea. So. Just to throw something out, it's like, yeah, you might have it once a month, once a week, maybe. So
Yeah, the thing that's going on here is they still don't know, and that is a little bit weird. They went through, they were like, "Hey, we have this whole design brief. We know, we're ready." No, you're not. Like they kind of in the video made it seem like engineering has been fully figured out. There's no more conversations to have. We're heads down making it now. Nope, that's not the case. So that's telling right there. But I do hope they go the route of distance traveled because it applies just like how we deal with things in real life. If I drive my car for 10,000 miles without getting an oil change, I'm going to have a problem, right? So there's warnings that can come up before you have a catastrophic failure, and it's very clear to the user that they've traveled certain amount of distance, and that would, be a problem or whatever. If we don't go and get a little repair or a little tune or whatever you need, an oil change type of thing. And that I think would be really important because I think it makes sense to the player from a real world standpoint that we deal with now. But each component could be rated at a certain, amount of work. You can also go the route of, for people who are in the industrial jobs might understand this, or like farmers as well. There's hours that you use the like your tractor for. That's how long you have to go before re-greasing certain components and things like that. So there's two ways to go. Both work. I'm more along the line of distance because I think that fits what more people go with. But these things are very much more like a tractor in terms of complexity and how you use them. So maybe you go more along the line of hours used for when you're supposed to service the ship and stuff. So it could go either way. Both make sense, but I think it's going to be what makes sense to the most players and what would be the easiest to explain, probably. And I think Torsten is correct on the distance.
On your amount of usage, depends on the kind of usage.
Exactly, exactly. But we are talking about different numbers once you start to tune it, or once you start to
even more depth, like manufacturer specific
to locations where there are like environment.
Not just that, industrial, military, high, whatever the competition. Right, there's all different types of components as well. Competition, I imagine, will break more often, quickly.
It's like if you fly into a radiation cloud, these chances are higher that they might trigger or might interfere with the ship items and therefore trigger a malfunction. Or if you didn't pay attention and you left the door open and suddenly the entire atmosphere. So basically any state that your ship is that isn't the stock state will affect the chance for a malfunction.
Right. So those people that are trying to fast and furious their components and everything,
exactly,
push them beyond the red line and stuff. Yes, they will have to contend with more engineering. You want more, you have to put more into it as far as gameplay.
But there's also the case when you like basically underpower your ships, right? So this even helps you to reduce the chances of malfunctions to happen. For example, that was with the intention of us allowing you to like travel millions and millions and millions of kilometers with your carrack to explore the vastness of space. So you basically, you would definitely undertune your items so that they are running with a lower like frequency, with a lower capacity, with lower resource consumption, with lower power, and that would ultimately result in, they are more reliable. That means they trigger less malfunctions. So there you might even end up with half a year without a malfunction. I'm throwing in numbers, right? But we didn't decide on that because we have to keep it interesting, but we are definitely not talking about.
Again, they haven't decided that they need to keep it interesting and half of a year without doing that. You would have to maintain it a lot, I would assume, which is also interesting. So
like once every 10 minutes you trigger a malfunction. That would be
It
crazy.
can't be like
and
daisy
I think it's important to state this.
And I think Star Citizen's done a really good job with food and drink. I think they could dial it back a little bit with the food and drink, to be perfectly honest. But they've put survival mechanics in the game without having them be ridiculous like survival games are.
This is one of those things that we could probably reiterate every 30 seconds through the entirety of this conversation. Yeah. But all of this is subject to further development, further tuning, further balancing, and most importantly, further testing. I mean, mining is a terrific example. You know, I'm going to use mining as a great example. Torsten and his team are the team that have worked primarily on, done most of the mining stuff that you see. And if you've been following the project, mining has grown and evolved and iterated the likes of far beyond a couple other systems and stuff like this. So,
debatable if those were good, but
like whatever the first version is that goes out, expect it to continue to evolve. Expect it to continue to change and iterate and grow based on your feedback and our team's intake and understanding of that feedback. I think you've been very good at demonstrating that in the past.
It won't be until I get back from vacation.
Your kudos.
Thank you. But we are already expecting we are expecting that the values that we put in, once we put them into a patch that will be playable by the players, we expect them to directly react and tune the numbers so that they actually make sense and that people are actually enjoying.
So one of the questions, again, we saw was, I know we just said you don't necessarily need to have an engineer, but I feel like the desire for one would probably increase as the size of the ship and the complexity of the ship grows. So let's talk about like a scale. Is there likely to be a use for an engineer on something as small as an Aurora? Then as we go up to a medium-sized ship,
you can tune your components,
a freelancer kind of thing, up to bigger Connies and stuff.
They sold a tuning table that goes in your hangar that you would put components on and tune. I think there's something in the Carrack too, where you tune or repair components?
And Carracks, and then Idrises and stuff like this. Talk to me about what you think that progression is. Again, go through testing and iteration stuff. But what are your thoughts on this here?
So my thoughts are that it is. So we won't put any numbers there. We want to make it attractive. So which is a kind of different approach, right? So we don't go in like this ship needs 5 engineers minimum to function. We really want to make it like you as a player recognize, okay, this is just the overhead of things I have to do is just so high, I should really ask a friend to join and take away the mechanic part of my engineering role. But like since players are really interested in numbers, like for example in Aurora, yeah, you as the pilot are also the engineer. Or if you are actually interested in that, because you still can go to the shop and get the repairs done there.
And it would be cheap to repair, yeah.
Yeah, you don't have to. For a ship like Cutlass Black, I think it's also still fine that it is one person. A second person will definitely help, because then you can sit still in the pilot seat and then have the other person like exchange a fuse or something like that, because also like the space allows it. Yeah, on the Carrack, yeah, my personal recommendation here would be at minimum of 2 dedicated roles there. So you have one that basically pays attention to the entire setup, because like also life
the one who
support is
runs
part
around
of that, and gravity, so the artificial gravity. So there's plenty to manage, while you should have a handyman running, a handy person running around there and actually fixing stuff.
It's also I want to acknowledge that Torsten is answering these questions coming at it from the perspective of the engineering gameplay. So there are many, there are ship teams and other gameplay teams, stuff like this, that all come in, and it's really going to depend on what you want to do with your ship and how you want to do it. But I don't think it's unfair to say that if we're a massively multiplayer game in a universe designed for the intention is to have many people there, that if you bring one person to a situation versus you bring 2 people to a situation, we should be providing players with the opportunities to make 2 people more effective than one.
Yeah, it's like not even more effective, but more enjoyable, right?
Yeah.
So if you're the only engineer on the ship and you constantly have like something red flashing and you're just stressed out.
For example, I'm not sure yet they achieved this with the mining lasers on the mole. And that's why I would have loved to have talked about mining as well during this episode, because, yeah, they're talking a lot about what they want to do, but with certain things that they've added to the game, I'm not so sure they've achieved it yet, and it would have been really nice to ask a few questions.
And you cannot keep up with the damage that has been done. I think it's, for some players it might be fun, like having this stressful, but for me, no. I would prefer to have like someone else to rely on as well. So I would, in a Hammerhead, like, hey, you take the left side of the ship, I take the right side, and yeah.
So I'm looking at the chat, some of the questions that are coming in. A lot of people are curious about how this interacts with repair. Like right now, the only version of repair that players see is you landed a thing and the drones fly around, or you've got a beam, and you shoot a beam at it. Talk to me about how engineering works with repair, either how it is today or where we're going in the future.
As it's more where we are going. So in the beginning, so right now our focus is in the engineering gameplay, and the next step that we then have to take is like fine-tuning the repair gameplay. That doesn't mean that the engineering gameplay doesn't have repair in it as well already, right? But we really would like to take repair afterwards a bit further than what we will deliver with the engineering gameplay. So the engineering gameplay might look like a more basic type of repair, where it's exchanging items, exchanging fuses, using a repair beam to bring up the health of your items, fixing the hull you already.
Bro, what? Because of the things, he's gonna get into that, but this is one of the funniest things I've seen, because you could go so many different ways of saying this. He just goes, "This fat guy is lying." Take a break. Take a break, dude. We'll see you when I get back from vacation. Have some respect for people.
Already know from the hull scraping part of it, but there is also like, because we are going in this malfunctioning direction where it is like this, like non-visible damage that can happen to your items. There we want to go a bit more creative, so there are dedicated counters to that malfunction that you are facing, which is considered repair, right? So you bring back the item to its full functional state, and so to sum it up, the engineering gameplay holds in repair functionality, but we want to move it further afterwards.
Chat is going off. What version of the game is Jared playing? He's talking about repair drones and beams. Yeah, I'm talking about what came before, what we've presented in the concept, promotions for several repair ships like the Vulcan and stuff that aren't out, and where we're moving, back to in the future with repair drones and flying around. If one must understand the great mysteries of Star Citizen, must take more than a dogmatic view of just the Jedi. I'm seeing him talking everything, trying to give me crap in the chat. Like, what version is he playing? I'm talking about it all. So we're talking about the future.
Yeah, but we can only play now. You got rid of them and got rid of the whole stations and everything, so we don't know what's real and what's not anymore.
Can somebody sneak into a ship? Now, we talked about the different roles and stuff like this. Let's talk about sabotage, like reverse engineering, if you will, using engineering offensively.
Yeah.
Is there going to be opportunities for players to sneak on board ships and use the tools of engineering offensively?
Yes.
Yes. You want to elaborate on that at all?
I can elaborate on that, yes. So we want to tie it in with the hacking gameplay. So
here we go.
That's one fact that we want to allow you to.
This essentially applies the fact that like the people in your party have access to panels on your ship and others do not.
To hook yourself into one of the items and then get even access to, like, imagine yourself, you being the aggressor on the ship, you plug yourself into the power plant. If you don't want to, well, there's the option you physically damage it, so you might punch it or use a hammer with a wrench on it, or use a beam to destroy it.
We love our beams.
Yeah, that's all about beams. And then, or you are the more digital assassin of the ship, where you just plug yourself in and go through the hacking gameplay. And then once you succeed, you get basically you get access to the states, what we talked about for the item. So you can switch around the states of the item and mess up your ship. But what you can also do is you can decide to ignore the item and progress further through the ship. So you basically move from node to node inside the ship. So once you successfully hack this power plant, you will see all the connected items that you can then select and start the next hacking procedure. And then you can make your way to whatever item you actually wanted to target and then change its functionality, turn it off, or vent a room if you want to target the life support, or every functionality that you see on the engineering screen would be accessible through that hacking process.
I think chat's going out like hacking. Yes, hacking has been in the cards for Star Citizen, for the Persistent Universe, and for Squadron 42 for some time. Intrepid viewers of the public roadmap might remember there was a hacking card on the public roadmap for quite a while.
Some of it is Bitmouse, but not all of it.
We actually had going back to our conversation just before the show starts, we actually had filmed a segment for ISC way back when, detailing how hacking was going to work and what was that, and it was filmed and it was edited, and then somebody had a great idea about how to change it, and it fundamentally changed. It's like, no, we're going to go this way, and everything in that segment became wrong. So it's one of the few segments we've ever produced that never got aired and whatnot. It happens.
I wonder who
the
somebody
constant
is.
Game developments change. It affects our video production as well.
Does it rhyme with?
But no, when
Liz Bobberts?
we already know the time and the place where we're going to reintroduce folks to hacking gameplay and how it's going to manifest and stuff. So stay tuned. No other updates about that just yet. One of the other curiosities that came out of the show, flamethrowers.
Yeah, yeah. It's a thing. You have to, no.
Okay, were you being serious when you mentioned flamethrowers? Were you
No.
joking?
It was a joke. I'm very bad with jokes.
That was a bad joke.
Yeah,
that
and
was
the
a bad
flamethrower
joke.
that folks saw in the show was literally I don't remember which rifle, but Will and Dave took the rifle and added flame to it to do the thing. So you're not actually looking at
not even
shooting a flamethrower at a power supply.
Yeah, the blowtorch was also an ejaculation there. So it's more like you can bring up the heat of the room with life support and stuff like that. So you might have more non-violent ways of bringing up the temperature if needed.
Yeah. Now that's not to say that.
Listen, Broken is German, one of our mods here. He makes fun of me and makes jokes all the time.
Flamethrowers won't make it into the game. The actor feature team is very keen on putting flamethrowers in. We're just saying that. I'm sorry?
And I'm not saying that they wouldn't work.
Yeah, it's just
so they might damage it,
they're
but
not an intentional part of engineer gameplay, and they're not soon. On the flip side of that, though,
Jared did say weird creative liberty on the video. Yeah, except this is what Torsten said. So the difference is that's what he said versus the toilet exploding kind of thing.
exploding toilets.
Yeah.
it actually is now on our list.
It is.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
I don't know if
Like
this
Cameron
is a
Summer,
joke now.
Exploding toilets is actually on our list now.
Yeah, the exploding toilet is on our list now.
Because you saw it in the show and it was awesome, huh?
Yes.
Glitch, I think it is part of the hacking stuff.
I should just stop the show right there. See if we have any more questions from the chat. So let's recount the basics. Engineer gameplay is a totally optional or mostly optional profession like mining and salvaging. You can do many activities in the persistent universe without diving particularly deep into it if that's not your particular cup of tea. You'll be able to take your ship back to repair stations or service stations and get the work done automatically as needed. It is there should you wish to take your space experience further, getting more performance out of your vehicles, getting more performance out of your capabilities out of your spacecraft, and being able to stay out in the far reaches of unexplored systems and stuff like that longer without having to come back and check in and repair. Flamethrowers are still on the wish list for the actor feature team, not necessarily a distinct part of engineering. Exploding toilets are the new cornerstone of engineering in all engineering gameplay.
I won't go that far.
We'll be basically around just trying to keep the toilets in your ships from exploding. That's why we put bathrooms and toilets on every ship. That's why Drake's ships are the best. They're the only ones that aren't going to have the exploding toilets. Am I right in everything so far?
Oh, yeah.
Anything else you
He's
want
just
to
so,
leave people
stop.
with before we let you go? Any final words about engineering gameplay? You've seen your own feedback. You've seen the own comments. What are we missing? What do people need to know today? Now, we are going to come back with another look at engineering later this year when it's much farther along. We can actually show you it working and the evolution of the resource
Torsten
management
Swedish?
system.
No,
with it.
he's
So
German.
We're not about answering every question and dotting every T today, but
I think we touched everything.
We won't
that
see
I
engineering
also
for years.
stumbled
I don't think we'll see engineering how it was explained exactly in the video for years, but I think we'll see a tier 0 version of it at some point.
over where I was like, yeah, we should talk about that again and clarify things.
okay. Well, thank you for hanging out with us.
Thank you for having me.
And all right, so up next, that was Torsten. Up next, our next guest couldn't actually be here today, but they could be here earlier in the week. So we pre-recorded. We're trying something different. We did half of this week's Star Citizen Live is going to be a Star Citizen Live-ish. So that's it for the engineer gameplay section. If that's what you were interested in, you can go back and do something else.
That's what I was
if you're
interested
in the life and times of a performance capture artist who works on Squadron 42 and Star Citizen, stay tuned. We're going to play that, and then I'll be back here at the end. Bye, everybody.
All right, so they basically hint, and it's Anna Demetrio, and yeah, she's here. There she is. If you're probably familiar face to you, streams on Twitch, is Dooley in the the Orison and Xenothreat missions, and is Miss Babbage. So if you go to if you go to New Babbage, she's the hologram that's there. So he talks to her for a while, but it's this second half of SCL stuff, and given what time it is, you know, I'm going on vacation. I got a 12-hour shift today before I go, plus all the things I have to do before I go on vacation. I'll be heading out. That is my react of Star Citizen Live today. It is a great part of the interview. I'm not skipping it out of any, you know, ill will to Anna. We actually rated her yesterday on Twitch, and yeah, she's super nice, and it was a really interesting and fun interview. It's just, it adds nothing to the Star Citizen experience as much as this engineering thing did, and I wanted to really keep the engineering aspect of it part of this react, because I think it was so important. So instead of extending the length of the video to where, you know, similarly to me, it's something most people aren't necessarily interested in, I thought that cutting it off would be good. Let me know if that's the thing that you want to see in the future. Maybe we cut Star Citizen Live reacts into 2 separate videos in the future. The one that you want to see and the one that you might not want to see could be the first one or the second part. You know, you never know. So thank you for watching. This is my last video before I go on vacation. So everything that you'll see on SaltEMike Reacts will have already been recorded. Same with... we'll have a weekend review on the main channel. We won't have an Answer the Call on the main channel, but I am working some things out where maybe on the ship there'll be a couple reacts, roadmap roundup, hopefully inside Star Citizen, maybe Star Citizen Live while I'm gone. I'm trying to work it out, but the laptop that we have is pretty old, so it's going to be scuffed no matter what. But we put OBS on it, and we'll see how it goes. So thanks again for watching. Make sure you subscribe, like, all that stuff. And I'll see you guys when I get back.